everybody. It's Tyler Esselman.
And it's Michael Osinski.
And you are listening to This One Goes to 11.
This One Goes to 11. It's the podcast where we invite someone to share with us what they believe is a perfect album.
So perfect that 10 out of 10 just isn't good enough.
And we are at the penultimate episode of season 10. I do love that word. Penultimate. I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand etymologically or linguistically or whatever, like where it comes from. Because it doesn't.
It's probably a Latin thing, right?
Well, but do we use that prefix for anything else? Pen as a prefix?
Pension, pentagram.
Penitent?
Penitentiary. I'm sure penitentiary has something with it, probably.
But what do all these things have in common?
Coming this fall to the This One Goes to 11 Linguistics podcast.
No. My God.
Sorry. Thanks for coming back to the penultimate episode of season 10, everybody. We hope you've been enjoying the ride. We've been talking about some real bangers. We have another banger for you this week, but to refresh you on what the concept is and has been this season, all of the people that are our guests this season have already been guests. And we made sure that they chose an album that came out before they were born, because we needed a little bit of we needed to widen the range of albums, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, well, we'll talk about Olivia Rodrigo, but we also would kind of like to talk about, other bands that didn't just release an album.
We just want a diverse palette. You want to have all of your vitamins, as they say, and we've been vitamin rich this season. But anyway, we're really excited about this week's guest. She's just the sweetest thing. She has captured my heart many times over. We are very excited to welcome back to the podcast, Alexis Jaworski.
Hello.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How about you guys?
So excited to have you back. Spring has sprung. We're in the full on Midwestern hellscape of spring when you don't know what's going to happen. It's been good. It's been good. We've missed you.
And the last time you were with us, I mean, technically the last time you were with us, you brought an album that I believe would have qualified for these same requirements. Would it not have? It would not have?
Oh, I appreciate that, Michael. I really do.
That's a good compliment.
No, I was born in 1979, and
okay. Well, we're the same age then. Okay.
Yeah. So, Hounds of Love, I believe, was 84.
Oh, I can't remember now. Now you're asking me to actually know the year. I can't do that.
This didn't seem to be a brief when I texted you about this. When I kind of let you in on the concept, it didn't seem like a brief that you had trouble with, which makes perfect sense to me. You're an old soul, so like you kind of it makes sense that you would have a great love for some albums that predated you. But I mean, let's just cut right to the chase, Alexis. We've set the very solemn task of you selecting another album that you believe is perfect and bringing it before the pantheon. So tell us, what album have thou brought before the This One Goes to 11 tribunal today?
I have brought Crosby, Stills, and Nash by Crosby, Stills, and Nash from 1969.
Yes. Okay, this is a me and Michael band. Technically with the Y on the end. Michael and I have shared a love for the Crosby, Stills, and Nash greater expanded universe in the past. So excited to see this one on here. Michael, how did you feel when you saw this one on Alexis's list?
I mean, I'm happy to talk about this. I sort of wondered if at some point, if I ever got one of my parents on this podcast, this is probably the band we would talk about, because this was these albums were playing quite often when I was growing up. So I mean, when you sent us your list, Alexis, I pretty much sent Tyler a text and was like, this is the one we're talking about. All the others are great, but this is the one that we must talk about. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
It was pretty nailed on. Well, we have great love for this album. I feel like this kind of makes sense to me based on, like, one of my favorite things about our conversation from last time when we talked about Kate Bush was sort of you talking about your adolescence, your musical adolescence, which it always comes up in these episodes, but yours is particularly interesting to me because you grew up in Chicago in a very specific time that I think I'm endlessly fascinated by. But it feels like Crosby, Stills, and Nash is kind of I think you could argue that they're very influential to rock in the later half of the 20th century in general, but I feel like they might my preliminary take is that I feel like they probably influenced that 90s Chicago scene in a very significant way. I don't know how you feel about that take as well.
I mean, that's an interesting take. To be honest, I never really kind of connected the dots,
Yeah.
directly, specifically, but I'm sure, of course. I think it's had multifaceted ripple effects across all genres of rock and country rock and folk rock and
Yeah.
all of that. But I mean, yeah, I think it's had a wide-reaching effect and influence
Totally.
for decades. I mean, really for decades.
Yeah, and probably still, that's the beauty is like, do we get a geese? Do we get a geese without Crosby, Stills, and Nash? Probably
Nope.
not. I
Nope.
don't think we do. There's something there. But okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Cart before the horse, as it were. For those of you who may not know who Crosby, Stills, and Nash are, you don't know who they are, but if you don't know who they are and you don't know about their eponymous album, we do have a convenient segment to get you all caught up. Michael, what's that segment called?
It's called The Beginner's Guide to Crosby, Stills, and Nash's Crosby, Stills, and Nash in 60 Seconds.
Yes, it is. It's everyone's favorite segment, as you might
That's
have
what
heard
you keep saying. You keep saying that.
once or twice. Michael is going to be taking on the task today, Alexis, of summarizing this band in 60 seconds for your approval. You will get to assess how he does with that job. Michael, how are you feeling about that today?
I'll be honest, not great, but we'll see. Just
Okay.
because there is, maybe we'll get into it. There is a lot of information
Tons.
about them, but not necessarily about their music, and also not necessarily about all of them together. Like if you take them individually, there's a lot, but as you will hear from my intro, there tends to be one theme that keeps coming up over and over again with this band in terms of its history. So, and I think it'll become clear from the first sentence of my intro here. So,
all right. Well, Alexis, I'm going to put the 60 seconds on the clock. You get to assess him in any terms you see fit when he's done. We all good?
You're all good.
All right. We're starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Move over, Fleetwood Mac. We got the OG drama. David Crosby of the Byrds, Stephen Stills of Buffalo Springfield, and Graham Nash of the Hollies formed their folk rock supergroup in 1968. Crosby had been unceremoniously released from the Byrds and was filling in for Neil Young, who had left Stills' band at the Monterey Pop Festival. After the two discovered they meshed well, they connected with Nash after a party in Laurel Canyon at the house of Monkey Peter Tork. The rest was instant harmony, but of the vocal variety only. They released their self-titled album in May 1969 to mixed success, with the tracks Sweet Judy Blue Eyes and Marrakesh Express emerging as singles. The blend of Crosby's poetically political bent, Stills' musical complexity, and Nash's pop-friendly sensibility helped to establish the folky country rockish sound coming out of California at the time, and their tight three-part harmony would forever define the band. Later, much to the dismay of Stills and Nash, Neil Young would join the band at Woodstock and on their next and biggest album, 1970's Deja Vu. After that, the band's success was spotty, as drugs, personality issues, and romantic entanglements would cause the band to break up and reform numerous times over the next few decades, but they always found a way to carry on.
Hey. There you go. That was the way to end it.
Yeah.
Is that it? Did you have anything else?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at you.
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty good. All right, Alexis. How would you assess that job? How was that?
Oh, I think it was wonderful. I give it, we're not doing points anymore, right?
You can do points.
You can do
whatever you want.
This part's prime for points.
Oh, okay. I think it was fantastic, and I will give it, in honor of the missing Y on this album, I'm going to give you 11 fringe leather jackets for Neil Young.
There you go.
Excellent.
Right?
Excellent. Appreciate that.
Have either of you had a leather jacket with fringe on it? You might. Either of you might be able to do that. I don't know that I could do that. I think that Alexis could.
I had like a motorcycle jacket, like real tight. And there are photos of me wearing it when I dressed as James Dean for Halloween one year.
Okay.
But I've never had fringe leather. So no.
I mean, I think it's a challenge really at this point, though. There's something kind of work into my wardrobe at this point.
This works. It works for you. I'm going to go ahead and approve that choice for you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. And actually, Michael's introduction actually reminded me back, Tyler, to your question about its connection to Chicago rock.
Yeah.
DSN's first concert ever was at the Auditorium Theater in Chicago,
There you go.
Oh,
and
okay.
then their second show was Woodstock. So,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
We're gonna dive deep into Crosby, Stills, and Nash, but first we have to step back a little bit. And since we've already talked to you about your relationship with music, we're wondering how your relationship with music has changed since the last time we spoke with you. How are you listening to it these days? Is there a specific format? Like, have your tastes completely changed? Like, what role does music serve in your life today?
so I think in subsequent, subsequent year and a half, I think like a lot of people, we canceled our Spotify subscription and moved over to Apple Music.
Yeah.
But I wasn't super successful in getting my library transferred over. So I kind of took the opportunity to be like, you know what, let's start anew. This could go, pro con. You don't have like an existing library to kind of fall back on, but kind of fun to like rebuild and explore and like build new playlists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but it kind of had me like really kind of annoyed that I had like over the past few years, decades, just gotten rid of all of my CDs. Everyone had that huge like CD case. I'm like, I don't have any CDs anymore to like rely on. So we'll kind of play around in Apple Music, but it hasn't become like muscle memory yet. I kind of still fumble around in it. So I have been relying more on like my just like vinyl records and playing phonographs, when I'm at home and just kind of putzing around the house. So I've kind of been leaning into that, and as a result, I don't have a lot of like super new music on vinyl.
Hmm.
I'm like a record geek by any means, but I've got my little setup that I enjoy a fair amount from that was my dad's record collection in college.
Hell
Plus
yeah.
like what we've accumulated over the years and things like that. So I'm kind of putzing around in Apple Music, but really kind of like laying into more of the vinyl these.
Hmm. What is it? What are the mainstay records? What are the ones you put on most often?
I think probably the largest artist of my library is probably Nina Simone. I've been
Oh,
really
okay.
kind of going into the Nina lately.
You got that one from your dad, or was that
No,
your addition?
I've got a bunch actually, probably one or two from my dad.
Hmm.
The one I think I've been kind of listening to a lot more lately is her at Carnegie Hall, which I think
Yeah, I've
my
listened to that one.
my partner Veronica got that for me at some point. So that's the one I've been listening to. And also, I think this was also on my list, but I've been doing a lot of Rodriguez lately. Um,
Yes. Hmm.
which is kind of like hyper specific. The album I have is not actually the original album, but it's the Searching for Sugar Man.
Yes.
Um,
I never
he did.
saw that documentary either.
Oh, highly recommend.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. Yes. Gosh, it's probably been out for a good 10 years at this point, maybe.
Yeah.
I highly recommend. Talk about a great um, music documentary, human
Hmm.
documentary, just about, an artist navigating
Yeah.
America through challenging times.
And
Yeah,
kind of like one of those, just by the grace of whatever God is out there, that Rodriguez is even stuck in the musical canon. Is kind of feels like that's a great story of that like we could have just lost Rodriguez forever,
yeah,
pretty much, but we still have him.
yeah. But you know what did is like his album that never got, really well known in America became, huge in South Africa and kind of became like the soundtrack of apartheid down there. And
Yeah.
uh, so I think also in like South America too. But yeah, so that's kind of I've been turning back the clock on my music listening for a little while now. So kind of the challenge and prompt here was I think fitting.
How much of the hype machine are you aware of these days?
So,
Like as you're balancing like going down a record, a vinyl path, like are you aware of any kind of like musical things that are happening right now? Like we just mentioned Geese a few minutes ago. Like were you tapped in on the Geese hype? Or like what would you say are the current artists that you're most aware of, even
oh,
while you go
um,
down that vinyl rabbit hole?
oh gosh. I mean, I'm aware of the geese hype. I can't
Yeah.
say I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm feeling my age a little bit, and that I'm kind of like, I don't know.
It's a
Um,
common theme this year, this
is
season
it?
actually. People
Okay.
saying that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Wisconsin, so it's not like I'm getting, like our radio stations are, really that forward
Sure.
thinking or contemporary. It's a lot of this era, actually, a lot of 70s and 80s and 90s are kind of like what's around here. Gosh, what am I listening to digitally that's new? I mean, I love Doechii.
Yeah, she is great.
Lucius is kind of consistently um in my Apple Music these days. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Lucius
Yeah,
at
totally.
all. Talk about harmonies, which is
Yes.
right.
Hmm.
Maybe that's just a style that I gravitate towards subconsciously. But yeah, I know my partner is much better in terms of keeping on top of music trends. So I kind of like rely or just kind of tag along on her and whatever she's listening to. I'm like, oh, that sounds great, but I can't really say I'm super tied into like the music scene right now.
I feel like I'm struggling with that as well because it is one of the main reasons I stay online at the moment. I use online in quotes, like aware of the different new musical things that are happening because I do find in myself an instinct to wanna, I'm grateful that I still want new music, but I think there is a balance. There's a balance in just trying to let new music wash over you, and not feeling like you have to become obsessed with every new thing that gets added to the hype machine. So
Yeah.
it's kind of that less is more mindset that I think the internet doesn't want us to have.
Mhm.
But I think there's something valuable in kind of having a partner that will introduce you to things along the way, because then you feel like you're just getting the best of the best anyway. That's curation, baby. That's what we
Agreed.
want.
Totally, totally. And also, I think probably the most recent album that I've kind of been obsessed with, but it's still been a couple years, but I think it's the best, I don't know, the best reference I can give you kind of what I've been listening to. But I also have it on vinyl too, so I'm bridging both digital and analog. Um, is SZA's SOS. That
Yeah.
was probably
Mm.
the last contemporary one that I was just obsessed with.
Yeah.
Granted, several years old, and that obsession has been kind of going along for that this couple of years, but that's probably the last, like, I would say, like current album that I've really kind of been obsessed about. But that's yeah, kind of
That tracks.
thing. Okay.
That tracks.
Mhm.
Did you do Olivia Dean at all? Were you on the did you listen to Olivia Dean at all? Okay, I'll send you her album.
Okay.
That one's that one's been on repeat for me for sure.
Oh,
Uh,
fantastic. Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
I am all ears. I am fully open for recommendations. That's kind of like where I'm at. Like I'll
cool.
just yeah, absorbing from friends that I trust and enjoy, and just kind of taking the recommendations, and that's kind of how I'm navigating music these days. So, fun.
You're in good company for that then.
Okay. All right, great.
All right. Well, then let's talk about Crosby, Stills, and Nash because this is a classic. This is foundational in terms of American rock, American folk rock specifically, insofar as that genre is distinct, right? But tell us about how you came to know this album. What was your meet cute with CSN like?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think I think probably for a lot of people who are familiar with this album, it's kind of just been ever present in my life.
Hmm.
My dad, growing up, my dad was a huge fan of Buffalo Springfield and the Byrds. I think
Okay.
those would probably be that, along with like the band, would probably be kind of his top favorite um, groups. And so I just, in that kind of vein, that sort of style was always just kind of around the house, intermittent with other, like 80s 80s
Yeah.
songs, but it's always kind of been ever present a little bit. Definitely from the Byrds. I mean, I think my dad's favorite album from them was Sweetheart of the Radio.
Okay.
Sorry, Sweetheart of the Rodeo.
Of
Excuse
the
me.
rodeo.
Mixed that name. But I think that one was a little too country for me. So I don't know, I just kind of been exposed to that sound and that sort of Laurel Canyon. My mom is a huge like Joni Mitchell fan.
Yeah.
So just the whole like Laurel Canyon sound is something that's kind of always been around. But I think specifically with like CSN and why, is that I think there's a couple like actually like super kid friendly songs. Like I was certainly aware of like Our House and like
Yeah.
Teacher as well when I was a kid. I don't know if it was from like, song time at like play school or preschool or anything like that, but I feel like I was super aware of those songs when I was young, maybe from, I don't know, soundtracks or something. But that was, yeah, it just kind of was music that kind of always existed. I probably did not like really dive into them until college.
Hmm.
Um, which was, in comparison to our last conversation where, it's, talking about like, growing up in Chicago, like in the city as a kid and going to all these rock shows. And I definitely was of the, more like riot girl aesthetic, I guess.
Hell yeah. We knew we liked you.
Um, and you know, kind of edging on the punk scene. But then for college, I went to University of Vermont, UVM.
Did.
Yeah, which was a culture shock, honestly, because you know, in the late '90s, going to Vermont, um, it was, you know, I don't know if I can, this is a term I can still use, but it's sort of like the Trustafarian era. I guess. So it's
Yes.
like, you know, my dad always joked about like when he went to college in the fall of 1970, and one of his best memories with this album was when he went to college. It was, you know, when he arrived, it was, you know, August. It was super, super hot, and so all the windows were open. In the dorm room, you could just hear this music kind of like wafting out of like the dorms onto like the quads where everybody was hanging out. And I kind of feel like I had like a similar experience just, you know, 25, 30 years later,
Mm.
uh, where, you know, Fish originated from UVM, Porter
Okay. Yeah.
very much, and like I lived in the same dorm, and the same floor where they like supposedly originated, where they lived. So there was
Dang.
very this,
Okay.
like ethos of just, you know, jam band, kind of hangout, weed smoking type of, you know, hangouts. And I feel
Yes.
this was kind of perpetually, you know, as we'd all kind of, you know, hang out in everyone's dorm rooms and just hang out. Everyone had, you know, 5 or 6 CD changers, and so this was kind of like always always in there, you know. Some people would have some trip hop, some people would have certainly Fish and like that type of stuff. But this was always kind of in there, and I
Yeah.
can't say like I specifically bought this album, but it sort of like made its way into like my CD case because we all kind of, you know, everyone shared music, and it just would kind of make its way around their different rooms, and you know, it just had that CD from, you know, sophomore year of college.
It is a mainstay. Yeah.
It's
Go
kind
ahead,
of
Mark.
crazy because the output of them as a band is relatively small.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, there's this album, there's the initial album, then there's the next one, Deja Vu, with Neil Young, and then I'm not sure where the song Ohio fits into that.
Deja
Which
vu.
is it on Deja
It's
Vu?
on
Because
Deja Vu. Yeah.
okay, I think it is on Deja Vu, but now I know why I wasn't able to hear it on Spotify, and that's because Neil Young has removed his music from Spotify. I think that's still the
Again,
case.
right? Wasn't he off of it, and then he was back onto it for a while, and now it's
Unclear.
back? Okay.
But it's kind of it's not surprising to me that, you know, you're going off to college and this album is still getting played. I
Mhm.
think what is surprising to me though is the fact that like they didn't last that long as a band that was putting out new music, but this still managed to have some impact.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to kind of just their, I don't know, the sort of energy they created. I think, you know, part of them calling themselves, you know, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and not like a different type of band name, was that, you know, they were all established artists. They all kind of wanted the flexibility to be able to play as a group of 3, a group of 4, a group of 2, and kind of be a little bit more modular about how they wanted to work and play and explore music. And, you know, I think that was so evocative of like the ethos of the Laurel Canyon at the time anyways, you know, kind
Mm.
of. But I
And
think by virtue of being such already established artists, such distinct artists, that they really were just, like you said, kind of like a super group that they kind of came like fully formed,
Mhm.
and were able to be like a real um important sort of outpouring of music for a very short period of time. And then, you know, you hear all the stories about how, you know, it's like this coke-fueled free love, and then
Yeah.
became like a downfall of like chaos and egos and everything. But that was felt like such a short time period, right? Because um, what Crosby, Stills, Nash, the first album they probably recorded in like '68,
Mhm.
and Deja Vu came out in '70. So like a lot of shit went down between those 2
yeah,
albums, right? But like
yeah.
it was this just sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but just like a supergroup force of basically just creating these really phenomenal songs and arrangements. But they had lasting power, but clearly the egos and the brilliance and the talent
Wasn't built to last.
they necessarily
Yeah.
didn't, you
I
know.
mean, the sort of mix of the sum of creative energy plus the egos put together. I mean, I also read up about the making of Deja Vu, which they all pretty much said it's a wonder that that album even got
Yeah.
made, because I think they weren't even ever in the same place at the same time recording it. There were only a few tracks that I think they did all in the room at the same time, but
Mhm.
just the addition of Neil Young's energy, which, don't get me wrong, I love Neil Young, but you can just hear it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
totally.
they're a band
It
that
does
is
add
not.
something.
The fact that they just called their band by their names makes sense to me, because it does really feel like it's just about them and their voices.
Yeah.
Like, it's rare that we say anything about the like musical dexterity of Crosby, Stills and Nash from in terms of instruments, because I feel like it is such a distinct harmony. I mean, I feel like it's up there with like the Beach Boys and the Andrews
Yes.
Sisters. Like, it is just, you hear their harmony and it defines them. It's not until Deja Vu happens and like Neil Young's guitar comes in, you're like, oh shit, like now there's also
Yeah.
this going on there, which may be why they didn't quite all stay together, because there was something about their voices together that made them work.
Well, and I think exactly to your point is kind of why, I chose this album versus Deja Vu. Like, I love Deja Vu. I actually want to say I love some of those songs even more than the songs I like on first album, which I love. But there's something, I don't know, about sort of the energy underlying the album. Like this first one, like they had all kind of gotten together, have kind of like figured out like this is fun, this is exciting. We can, have a home for songs that they had written with their previous bands that weren't sounding right, and everything just felt kind of like a magical coming together
Hmm.
for this first album. And then by Deja Vu, while they were, the songwriting and arrangements and everything had kind of like, evolved and bloomed a little bit more. But you can, I don't know, I feel like there's something about, you can feel like that tension on the album. You can kind of feel Neil Young kind of, while he was integrated in the group, he didn't mesh in as well as those three did.
Yeah.
I love those songs, but I feel like, at least for the purposes of this pod, like I felt like kind of the energy around the excitement and sort of evolution of them coming together is sort of a, I know, more exciting thing to talk about than necessarily like the de-evolution of them on Deja Vu. So
Mhm.
they kind of have like this exciting, magical quality about this album, and almost a little bit more of like, I don't want to say innocence, but I feel like it goes down a little bit easier than Deja Vu sometimes.
I like that take.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, Deja Vu feels like it's got some extra flavor in there.
yeah. I love those songs. I mean, like if I had like to choose like one or two songs to just like be my favorites from them, it probably would come from Deja Vu. But I think as a cohesive album that kind of works together without somebody going off,
Mm.
a little bit more discordant or kind of doing their own thing, I kind of felt like this one kind of had that a little bit more.
As a proof of concept, I think that this is very pure. Like it's
Mm.
like this is the pure distillation of what Deja Vu is. Like this is what everything that happens here happens on Deja Vu. There's just more around it. So I think when you think about artistic trajectories, this is a fascinating case study in that way.
Well, we've been talking about the album as a whole, but maybe we should dig down into specific tracks. We're curious to know, Alexis, what have you chosen as your standout track from Crosby, Stills and Nash?
I chose Long Time Gone, written by David Crosby.
All right, dear YouTube viewers, thank you for watching us on YouTube. But now, because you've chosen to watch us on YouTube, you, lucky ducks, you get to actually hear that song in its entirety, because you're obviously watching us via the playlist, because that's the way to watch all of our episodes. So why don't you give that song a listen, or see whatever sort of video YouTube has cooked up for that, and come on back for part 2, and we'll find out more about this track and a few others.